He called her baby girl before he became a federal criminal defendant, and she became the star witness against him. Sean Diddy Combs' heavily pregnant ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, finished her explosive testimony today in the music mogul's federal racketeering and sex trafficking trial. Ventura was on the stand for 4 days, and the judge had urged both sides to keep up the questioning, the pace of it, to avoid her going into labor on the witness stand. She's due to give birth any day. Combs' lawyers abruptly ended their cross-examination this afternoon after showing a text exchange from 2012. In that exchange, Combs asked Ventura if she wanted to have a freak-off for the last time. Ventura responded, "I don't want a freak-off for the last time. I want it to be the first time for the rest of our lives." Now, that fits the narrative the defense is trying to sell to jurors, that Ventura and Combs had a loving but very complicated and tumultuous relationship, and that she consensually agreed to take part in these freak-off sex sessions, and that she perhaps even enjoyed them. At one point today, the defense asked Ventura, "Do you still have love for Combs?" Ventura answered, "I don't hate him. I have love for what he was in the past and what it was." Jurors also heard an audio recording from 2014 in which Ventura is heard repeatedly threatening to kill a man who alluded to owning and watching videos of one of those freak-off sessions. The defense tried to show that Combs supported and worked with Ventura to prevent that video from leaking out, which would contrast with her earlier testimony that she was a victim who feared he would release the tapes as blackmail. Now, during redirect, when the prosecutors get to go back, prosecutors did work to get their case back on track, trying to show Ventura was forced into these obscene sexual encounters and that Combs controlled her through abuse and physical violence. They revisited that brutal beating in 2016 at a Los Angeles hotel, where video shows Combs viciously beating Cassie Ventura after she tried to escape from a freak-off session. She told prosecutors today, quote, "He followed me into the hallway and tried to bring me back." Let's go right now to NewsNation anchor and senior correspondent Laura Ingle outside the courthouse for us in Lower Manhattan. Laura, these were 4 incredibly intense and grueling days of testimony from Cassie Ventura, but she's only a piece of the case. 2 other witnesses then took the stand.
That's right. And, you know, this really was a wild day, Elizabeth, because there were new shocking details that came out in court today, including a stunning development that was brought up by the defense that Cassie Ventura recently had a $10 million settlement with the Intercontinental Hotel that you just showed, something that prosecutors never brought up this week. Cassie Ventura was visibly actually taken aback as that figure was mentioned right in front of the jury. It was a major detail that was left out until the very last minute. Then towards the end of the day, we heard from a special agent with the Department of Homeland Security who was a part of the search warrant at the hotel here in New York City where Sean Combs was arrested last year. The agent told jurors about what they found in the hotel, showing pictures of the inside of that room, which included several bottles of baby oil, bags of drugs like ketamine, MDMA, a device for mood lighting, and $9,000 in cash. And here is the wild part, Elizabeth. A lot of this evidence was not only shown in pictures to the court, but some of the actual evidence in evidence bags containing the pink powder that was ketamine. Then there was an orange pill bottle with Combs with the alias name on it for Frank Black. That is Sean Combs' alias. Those bags were passed around in the jury box. The special agent had the $9,000 in actual physical cash and fanned it out in her hands as she was sitting in the witness stand. But it was that last witness of the day who really left the court with a lasting impression for the weekend. Dawn Richard, a singer that Combs worked with in 2009 through 2011, testified that she witnessed Combs allegedly attacking Cassie Ventura inside his Los Angeles home, hitting her over the head with a black skillet, kicking her while she was in the fetal position on the ground, then dragging her by the hair up the stairs, where then she heard more violence behind closed doors. And Richard said she didn't call police. She was scared and said the next day she was at Combs' studio. They were in a back room, and Combs told her not to say anything, adding, "Where I come from, people who go missing if they say something." So back here on the stand, back here at court on Monday. We are expecting Richard to continue her testimony. Then we are expected to hear from Cassie Ventura's best friend and her mother. So a lot more to go on week number 2.
All right,
Elizabeth.
Laura Ingle, live downtown in Manhattan. Thank you in front of the courtroom. Thank you so much. Let's go to our legal panel now. Jesse Weber is a NewsNation legal contributor and Law and Crime Network host. And Neama Rahmani is a former federal prosecutor. Great to have both of you here. Jesse, I'll start with you. The defense, obviously, on their cross-examination, tried to make the point that this was a chaotic, turbulent, unorthodox relationship, but that Combs did not force Cassie Ventura to do any of this. Did they succeed, do you think?
I think they had a much better day today than they did yesterday. You know, it's one thing to talk about the messages where she was seeing compliant about being, you know, with freak-offs at the beginning of their relationship, during the relationship. It's entirely something else after the 2016 event, after the alleged rape in 2018. In 2020, their messaging, for her to say, I don't hate him. The jury might have to digest, is it possible that this was all consensual? Now, I don't think it's the end of the day for the prosecution at all.
But don't they just need one instance when it wasn't consensual?
Well,
and doesn't that video, the hotel video, show that she wasn't consenting? She was trying to leave.
Arguably, and you and I talked yesterday about the plane incident as well. Look, I think that this is a stronger case for the prosecution. I think that at the end of the week, they're happy with this case because nobody can doubt that she was physically abused. Tying it to the sex trafficking or tying it to these freak-offs, there's already evidence she didn't want to participate in at least one of them. And remember, she could have said yes 99 times. The one time she says no, that's all that matters.
All right, Neama, what did you make of it? Do you agree with Jesse's analysis?
I do. Jess and I usually agree, so it's not surprising I agree with them here. I mean, clearly the government has established the physical violence. The defense is trying to walk that line and distinguish between the two, saying, well, the physical violence happened, it was mutual, but there's this sexual conduct that was consensual. I mean, starting just from the beginning of the case, the shock and awe evidence, her taking drugs until she threw up, being urinated on, having to have sex when she was menstruating and on UTIs. I mean, I don't think any human being could consent to that. And I think the jurors are going to take that into that deliberation room, notwithstanding the emails and text messages. I agree with Jesse. They're certainly good for the defense, but we're going to have an expert come and explain the psychology of abuse. Victims can love their abusers. They can use those words of affirmation. And we're going to have those corroborating witnesses, like Laura said, Don Richard and others next week that are going to testify. And by the way, they weren't in love with Combs. They're going to testify that they saw all this conduct as well. So I think the government is in the lead here. And frankly, I thought the defense was going to be much more aggressive during their cross. I expected a Camille Vasquez, Amber Heard type situation the past couple of days.
Yeah, but Amber Heard, Neama, Amber Heard wasn't 9 months pregnant. I don't know. I think that Sean Combs' defense attorneys had a very tough road.
But when Anna Estevio was chosen to do the cross, and again, she's very experienced, but now you've chosen a younger female. This isn't an overbearing old man that's cross-examining the star witness in the case. And then you had Tenny Garagos deliver the opening. I thought there was a very specific reason you have these younger females, because you're going to go hard. Again, this may be part and parcel of the defense's strategy. Maybe they think the text messages and the emails were enough. I don't think so. So I thought they probably should have gone harder, in my opinion.
Jesse, what do you make of the fact that, let's set the stage here. The prosecutors let Sean Combs know, we're going to arrest you. His lawyer said, let him surrender.
Yep.
We'll fly him to New York, check him into a hotel suite. We'll await you guys to come and arrest him. They knew he was in this hotel in New York only to be arrested. What is he doing with mood lights, cash, drugs, and boatloads of baby oil and lubricant?
He knew he was being investigated for the freak-offs, and what, does he bring the exact evidence of freak-offs? I mean, you can't make something like this up. And by the way, it goes to the idea that he wasn't just committing this 20 years ago or 10 years ago, but allegedly at the same time. And I think that is so important for the prosecution's case. And by the way, goes to the idea why he never made bail multiple times, right? You think about, he shows up and he ultimately gets apprehended with this material. By the way, I just want to mention one thing that Neama said. You know, look, you can't go so strong against Cassandra Ventura because you know she was physically abused. put the video aside. Look at the photographs. Look at the corroborating testimony. This is a very, very narrow case for the defense now on which they can argue. And I agree. Maybe they didn't do enough. Maybe they had to go a little bit, focus more on the text messages. But at the same time, it is a gray, complicated case. This is not him getting convicted. The jury will not accept that if he abused Cassandra Ventura or sexually abused Cassandra Ventura. That doesn't mean Sean Combs is guilty.
Yeah.
Racketeering, sex trafficking is a higher standard.
But Neama, he's not on trial for being a complete, an unadulterated, awful human being. He's not on trial for beating up women. Sadly, he should be, but he's not. Those are state crimes. He's on trial for racketeering and sex trafficking. Is the prosecution making the case on those specific charges?
I think so. I think racketeering is easier because there's different ways to get there. You can get to racketeering with prostitution, with extortion, with bribery. There are many RICO predicate acts. Sex trafficking, admittedly, is going to be tougher. You need that coercion. You need that force. So a little bit more of an uphill battle. Obviously, the prostitution charges, I think the government has that in the bag. That certainly wouldn't be a big win for them. But this is a big question I get. We're talking about domestic violence. We're talking about rape. Even reporters in the courtroom, they're texting me, Neama, this is a sex trafficking case. This is a racketeering case. Well, I'll say, listen, this is the nature of federal law and prosecutions, right? There generally are no federal rape charges or federal domestic violence charges. If there were, believe me, Combs would be prosecuted for all of this. You got to kind of, point to my former district attorney in Los Angeles, who was soft on crime, who didn't bring these charges. Otherwise, Combs may have faced justice years earlier.
Jesse, finally, I just want to talk a little bit about, I think we lose sight sometimes of what's involved and what's in the circus around this trial that is happening currently in Manhattan. Sean Combs used to be one of the wealthiest men in the music and fashion industry, worth nearly $1 billion, immensely powerful in many, many cultural areas. Today, every single day, we have had lines of people for days and days waiting to get into that courtroom. People are paying professional line waiters, I think that's the word for it, I don't know.
Line sitters.
Line sitters. To stand in line through the middle of the night to get into this court. We had a fight break out outside the courtroom yesterday between supporters of Combs and supporters of Cassie Ventura. This has become quite an event.
This is a highly emotional case, and whenever you have a big, high-profile case like this, you see the crowds. The difficulty here is there's no cameras, there's no audio equipment, so people are trying to get a front row seat. There's a difference between us repeating the testimony and actually seeing it for yourself. And this is, I was in the Harvey Weinstein case almost every day. Everybody was trying to get a seat to that because it's kind of surreal to think about somebody at that level.
At the pinnacle of
what
power
he's being accused
and
of,
wealth and privilege and to be sitting now in this courtroom facing these charges and facing a sentence of life in prison. Cassie Ventura, Neama Rahmani, two of the very, very best. Thank you so much.
Oh, Cassie Ventura.
Elizabeth.
Did I do it again?
You did it again. That was 2 nights in a row.
Neama, last night I called him Cassie Ventura too, and because it's Cassie Ventura.
I don't know how to feel, but I've been called worse. It's okay.
You know what? You could be governor of Minnesota, maybe.
I missed that.
Jesse Weber and Neama Rahmani, two of the very best. Have a great weekend, gentlemen. I'm going to practice saying Jesse Weber all day Saturday and Sunday. Coming up for us.